Good morning. I am Karen Gustafson, Interim Minister at UCE. Whether the Unitarian Church of Evanston is your spiritual home or you are seeking comfort and connection in uncertain times, we are grateful that you are with us. UCE is an inclusive and welcoming community seeking truth in love and striving to nurture the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values, which remind us in every moment and through every challenge that each of us matters and that we are all connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. Together, let us remember our oneness, our kinship with one another, and may we hold one another in heart and mind with tenderness and careful attention. There are many links of connection in the comments section, including credits for the readings, to virtual religious education, for donations, and to be added to our email newsletter list. So a few announcements this morning. The all-church Zoom meeting will be on Wednesday at 5:30. We'll send a reminder email in the early afternoon on Wednesday with a link. We'll hold a virtual coffee and conversation after this service for 30 minutes on Zoom. And you can find the link in the comments below or from the newsletter. We still need animals and stars and shepherds for our virtual pageant. Please sign up. You can find a way to do that in the newsletter. And now I invite you to get your chalices ready and to set a place for yourself and your family as we join together in beloved community. We open with these words from Gretchen Haley. There is a time to let go of the resistance, the steadfast march to complete the to-do list. For parents and activists and for all who love this life, these people, these mountains, this sky. There is a time to rest and to trust. The world will go on, filled with partners at the ready, all of us splitting shifts on this project of building and healing, tending and turning. Breath and being require their own practice, their own attention, and the heart needs time for becoming stronger after the shattering, the opening wider, the learning to love more and again. Come into this time. Study stillness and joy. Know your belovedness like a memory calling out from the center of your being, connecting every little piece of everything to everyone and all of us. Feel here the gratitude rising and praise for this chance to begin again this day with hope. Come, let us worship together.
We light our chalice this morning in northern Illinois on the traditional homelands of the Council of the Three Fires, the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations. Many other tribes, including the Menominee, Miami, Ho-Chunk, Sac, and Fox, also call this area home. We name these in honor and respect. The Proximity Partner Group in Skokie, 60076, lit the chalice in our sanctuary. Please join in saying these words by Charles Howe, Minister Emeritus of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Wilmington, North Carolina. We light this chalice to affirm that new light is ever waiting to break through to enlighten our ways. That new truth is ever waiting to break through to illumine our minds. And that new love is ever waiting to break through to warm our hearts. May we be open to this light and to the rich possibilities that it brings. Now, please join in saying these words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Our hymn this morning is number 38, Morning Has Broken, and it was selected in memory of Kay Wade, who died a month ago, and her daughter asked if we would play this song for her. It was a song that she loved. Kay loved the choir, loved our music program, and so we sing this in her memory.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word.
Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. Morning has
broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word.
This morning's Time for All Ages is Charlotte and the Quiet Place by Deborah Sosin and illustrated by Sarah Woolley. Charlotte's house is noisy. In the hallway, the floorboards groan. In the living room, the TV bellows and blares. In the kitchen, her dog Otto yips, yaps, and yowls. Even in her bedroom, which is supposed to be quiet, the old steam radiator hisses, whistles, and whines. Where can Charlotte find a quiet place? Charlotte's school is noisy. In the classroom, the bell clangs. In the lunchroom, the trays clatter and crash. On the playground, the swings creak, squeak, and rattle. Even in the library, which is supposed to be a quiet place, the children giggle, yammer, and yell. Where can Charlotte find a quiet place? Charlotte's neighborhood is very, very noisy. On the sidewalk, the jackhammers blast. On the street, the sirens warble and wail. Underground, the subway screeches, rumbles, and roars. Even in the park, which is supposed to be a quiet place, the leaf blower buzzes, blusters, and hums. "Oh," cries Charlotte, "I have to find a quiet place." On Saturday morning, Charlotte takes Otto for a walk. In the park, Otto spots a squirrel and he lurches free. Charlotte chases Otto, charging down the hill, over the bridge, and into a grove where Otto skids to a stop. Charlotte and Otto are out of breath. Together they sit down and rest. They close their eyes. Charlotte's belly rises up and down, up and down. Hoo, hoo, hoo. Her breath goes in and out, in and out. Hoo, hoo. Her mind slows down. Ooh, It is quiet at last. It is so, so quiet. Charlotte notices an even quieter place. A place deep in her belly where her breath is soft and even. A place deep in her mind where her thoughts are hushed and low. A place as quiet as the small silence at the very last page of her favorite book. The silence right after the end. Whew. When Charlotte is ready, she and Otto hike slowly away from the grove, back over the bridge and up the hill toward home. Nowadays, Charlotte's house is still noisy. Her school is still noisy. And her neighborhood is still very, very noisy. But Charlotte remembers that day in the park. So wherever she is, whenever she wants, when her world is too noisy, Charlotte simply closes her eyes and travels back to that peaceful place, the place deep in her belly where her breath is soft and even. Whew. The place deep in her mind where her thoughts are hushed and low. The quiet place inside.
Find the stillness, oh, the stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the
These are the joys and sorrows that have been submitted through the Google form found on the homepage of the UCE website. Alternatively, you can send an email to Reverend Eileen or Reverend Susan Francis expressing some joy or sorrow that has occurred to you in the recent past, so we may share them and more effectively minister to one another. So these are the joys and sorrows that have been shared with us ahead of time. From Joe Romeo, very grateful for the help of my granddaughter Nicoletta. Making our Romeo family meatballs and sauce was delivered to the Skokie Romeos for early Christmas, Zoom together meal. From Carla Williams and Cheryl Mounts, many thanks for the expressions of care and comfort since Carla's mom had a heart attack on November 19th. Mom is doing well but does not want any treatment. Hospice is in place to help us provide comfort and access, support, to keep her at home whatever happens next. We are celebrating the holidays in a big way and taking it a day at a time. We are grateful for the hospice team and the support of the UCE community. From Sarah Vanderwicken and Paula Go, Kate Poole moved this last week to Brookdale, a continuum of care place and in Des Plaines. Although she was not at all happy about moving, she seems to be meeting people and has things put away and is settling in nicely. We are happy for her. With great sadness, we share the news from Dave Woods that his wife of 57 years, Alma, died in her sleep last night. Alma was a lifelong Universalist and Unitarian Universalist, and she and Dave had been members of this community for 53 years. She will be so dearly missed. A larger celebration of Alma's life will be held when possible in 2021. In the meantime, we are grateful for her life. We know that these are not the only joys and sorrows that are on our hearts. Let's take a moment of quiet now to read to ourselves the joys and sorrows that have been added to the chat, including the losses and concerns expressed earlier in the chat from Brennan Baker, Brianna Rotter, Julie Prolifka, and Amy Staton. We hold these together in care and tenderness. And I invite you to say aloud the names of those you are holding in your heart, those who are sick or who have died, as we let their names gather on the winds and be held in this community that knows no walls. Together, we expand our celebrations and lessen the burden of our grief. I invite you now to join me in the spirit of meditation. Today, we are going to pray with our bodies. This may be done standing or seated. Karen Herring, who is the minister of the Unity Church Unitarian in St. Paul, will guide us in a winter mudra, which is a embodied meditation. And we invite you to find a place. Maybe you want to move a little of the furniture and get yourself into a spot where you can move as you can, and share this with the people in your household. So let us take a moment now to prepare, and then Karen will present us with the mudra.
This is a winter mudra that I share with you. It's adapted from one created by C.L. Tewksbury. And I will run through it 3 times. The first time I will go straight through it. And a mudra being just an embodied meditation with motions and words together. So the first time I'll run through it straight through. Then I'll do it a second time with an explanation, step by step. And a third time straight through again, so that you can learn it. May I rest in the stillness of winter. May I cherish my body, my dreams, and intuitions. Guide me from fear to courage. Teach me to see deep into the mirror of my soul. So now I'll run through it with some explanation. You always want to begin with your feet about shoulder length apart. You can't see mine, but that's where they are, with your knees just slightly flexed and a little bounce to them just for stability. Stand with the crown of your head open to the energy above, and the soles of your feet open to the energy from the earth below. Even if you're inside, draw it up and let it run through you up and down. Take a deep breath before you begin. May I rest, cross your hands in front of you, in the stillness, and imagine a frozen pond, that still sheet of ice in front of you, of winter, and the snow falling slowly down. May I cherish, drawing a big circle and bringing it right back to your heart, my body, my dreams. Winter is a time of so much darkness and dreaming, and the intuition born of it, and intuition. Guide me. Notice it's your own hands guiding you, your own wisdom in correlation with nature and others. Guide me. You take a step forward with both feet. From fear. Fear is always a step backward, out of relationship. So we're being guided away from fear. To courage. And feel the courage, the strength there. Teach me to see deep, not outward, but deep inwardly into the mirror of my soul. And the soul is a bird flying from the nest. And then we come back around with the snow falling. We'll do it one more time, straight through. May I rest in the stillness of winter. May I cherish my body, my dreams, and intuitions. Guide me from fear to courage. Teach me to see deep into the mirror of my soul.
World and our community. And because we continue to need one another in the blessings of community, we take this time to invite you to give to our shared plate. Today's offering will be shared with the UUSC. We now have a message from Tom Tickner.
Good morning. As we aspire to make the world whole, here's a nice opportunity to join other UUs to effectively help those in supreme need and on an international basis. We're grateful for the work of UUSC and the many UCE members who support it. Please visit uusc.org if you would like to become a member. Peace and joy be with you.
UUSC is an 80-year-old international human rights organization grounded in the principles of Unitarian Universalism and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
UUSC partners with over 50 locally led grassroots organizations around the world to advance human rights.
We work with communities affected by natural disasters and humanitarian crises, including ethnic minorities facing a campaign of genocide in Burma.
We partner with First Indigenous peoples to advance their right to self-determination in systematically addressing the loss of their homes, their livelihoods, and their cultures due to the impacts of climate change.
And we support the right to safety, dignity, and justice for Central Americans in Central America, along the migration route, and in the United States.
We can only do this work because of the support of individuals and congregations like you. Please join us.
Text to give, send a check or give from our website. If you send in a check, please indicate in the memo line of your check that your check is for the shared offering, pledge, or capital campaign or some other giving. Please give as generously as you are able, and may what you give bring you joy. Our reading today is written by Mark Bellatini. Less light. A time of rest for eyes weary of bright lights competing for our attention. Less light. A time to focus carefully on things that the spotlight has missed. Less light. No need to squint, eyes wide and alive. Less light. No need to look frantically for what we might be missing. Eyes closed and breast steady. Less light. Time to see the slant sun of dawn kindling dewy webs between bare, wet branches. Less light, a blessing to all who never find to sit in the dark silence during the noisy summer. Less light. A reminder to all those who need help, remembering that few paths in this life are clearly lit. Less light. It is time to notice shapes and textures as well as color. Less light. A gift of the tilting earth. Less light. A gift. A blessing. A reminder. At the time of opportunity. Blessed are you, light that wanes.
The sun is rising in the east, and the feathered flutes begin trilling in the trees, and I sing to love, sing to give love, sing to hold love, sing to be love. In the morning, thank you, thank you. In the evening, thank you, thank you. In the middle of the day, thank you, thank you. In the deep dark night, thank you, thank you. The sun is shining in the south, and I breathe you in, and I breathe you out, and I breathe in love, breathe out to give love, breathe in to hold love, breathe out to be love. In the morning, thank you, thank you. In the evening, thank you, thank you. In the middle of the day, thank you, thank you. In the deep dark night, thank you, thank you. The sun is setting in the west, and the birds begin to sing their rhapsody of rest, and I rest in love, rest to give love, rest to hold love, rest to be love. In the morning, hallelujah. In the evening, hallelujah. In the middle of the day, hallelujah. In the deep dark night, hallelujah. And I sing to love, sing to give love, sing to hold love, sing to be love, breathe in love, breathe out to give love, breathe in to hold love, breathe out to be love. Rest in love, rest to give love, rest to hold love, rest to be love. hallelujah. In the deep dark night, hallelujah.
December now, Advent in the Christian liturgical calendar, the time of waiting and preparing for the coming of Christmas. Regardless of what we believe about the Nativity of Jesus or our own particular history of winter holidays, all of us this year are waiting and preparing for a wholly different kind of Christmas. The need for a different kind of preparation is perhaps obvious. What gifts or lessons might we receive this year about the value of waiting? Well, I'm willing to bet here that there is not a person in this viewing audience who could not, with a little reflection, identify one or more qualities or characteristics of yourselves that has been shaped by your experience or relationship to waiting. Adapting to the reality of waiting is one of the central developmental tasks of childhood. Waiting is the function of the inability to control the timing of an outcome, to be at the mercy of circumstances we cannot easily or appropriately influence. When I view my own childhood through this lens, I can see a little girl in a small town in the 1950s, a town where everyone knew my family. We had a small resort on a nearby lake, and going into town for supplies with my mother meant, well, waiting. We made the usual stops at the post office, the bank, the grocery store, sometimes more than one, and at each place I would wait while my mother would visit. Sometimes I'd wait in the car and read or color, which was considered to be safe then. But more often than not, I would tag along and listen to the adults share bits of news, or I'd wander the nearby aisles. Mostly, I just stick close and waited for the reward at the end, which was the stop at the bakery eat shop where we would have lunch. I would have a ham sandwich with lettuce and mayonnaise on soft, white, freshly baked bakery bread and a raised donut. The lunch was in a category that I later came to understand as something worth waiting for. There were, of course, all of the other childhood waitings, the are we there yet car trips to visit relatives, the daily waiting for meal times. My mom's standard response to the timing of dinner was always, when the potatoes are done, regardless of where she was in the preparation. In early childhood, I waited for the grown-ups to have time to read to me, and as a teen to drive me somewhere. My most formative waiting as a child happened during the few weeks at the beginning and end of each school year. Our resort was on an island that was a 10-minute boat ride from the bus stop. Until we moved back to town for winter, I was dropped off each morning to catch the bus and fetched each afternoon at the dock. The time between the drop-off and the fetching varied depending upon the availability of boats and drivers. And some days it was a half hour or more. No watch, no cell phone, just a little girl waiting with infinite trust that was never betrayed. And when I reflect further, I am aware that as the only child at the time, that in the midst of small waitings was the big waiting, to be able to do things for myself so that I could be less dependent upon others. In some ways, I think my fierce independence was an adaptation to waiting. I learned a lot about what was worth waiting for, how to time requests based on available resources, when to interrupt and when to remain still. I learned creative ways to amuse myself, and I think I began to develop a capacity for still waiting. This is not the still waiting of the, oh my God, I'm still waiting, with all of the accompanying stress of feeling powerless in the face of the customer service agent who has put me on hold. It is the still waiting that helps me to lean gently into the inevitable. The still waiting. It often involves a quick assessment of the consequences of my choosing not to wait. If I leave the emergency room now, will my broken finger heal without medical intervention? Versus, can I wait another week to cancel my Disney subscription? Assess sometimes if there is something else I might do, shout angrily at the intake nurse and demand that I be seen before the victims of a car crash, and then decide to stop, to leave, or stop fighting, and lean into still waiting. Still waiting is the capacity to simply accept that there are real circumstances beyond my control, and perhaps even a recognition that sometimes I am part of the circumstances beyond someone else's control. It is finding the sweet spot embodied in the serenity prayer, to be granted the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. This kind of waiting is a surrender that slows and sometimes opens the heart. It can provide a generosity of spirit that allows oneself to decenter from self-importance and oppressive urgency. It can be an in-breath that relieves the exhaustion of constantly putting out. It can, if allowed, become a kind of blessing, a relief, an opportunity for creative quiet, finding the quiet place within, like Charlotte did in our story today. Unlike the kind of spiritual practice that seems to require making or finding time, waiting is a time forced upon us, time otherwise regarded as wasted. Waiting offers an invitation to capitalize on this negative space in our schedule. Time is our most precious resource, and waiting is an opportunity to do something unplanned, something unexpected. Did you hear the stories about the communities that formed in long voting lines, women who ordered pizza, brought water and napkins to everyone in the queue, ended up exchanging phone numbers to talk about grassroots organizing? We have become a society whose moral compass is gyrating wildly by the forces determining what we are willing, able, and needing to wait for. The whole social, political, economic structure that holds and drives any of us can be sussed out of what we are waiting for. Some kinds of waiting might, in fact, be touted as a luxury for those of us who can see an end in sight. How little we consider how much relative privilege affects the nature of our waiting. Though we are all waiting right now for relief from the pandemic, all waiting is not created equal. Some are waiting for tech support, waiting for the automatic deposits of paychecks or pensions, for mail order purchases, hoping holiday gifts will arrive in time, waiting for the latest issue of the New Yorker, for the butcher shop to stock lamb, in the line at the post office to mail a care package to a family overseas. Still others are waiting for the government to decide on a stimulus package, for the volunteers to show up at the soup kitchen, for the doors to open at the shelter, for someone to offer a handout, waiting for the end of the workday at a minimum wage job, waiting for the bus, waiting to mail a care package to a soldier overseas, waiting for the results of the weekly COVID test required of all essential workers exposed hourly to the mindless ravages of this strange and capricious predator. Still others are waiting for professional license applications so they can start work or continue to practice in ways that are helpful. The bureaucratic wheels that have a reputation for grinding have been further slowed by the logistical disruptions of staff reassignments and limited office spaces. Healthcare workers are waiting for deliveries of PPE, and willing volunteers are waiting for beleaguered truckers to deliver much needed food. And amidst all of this other waiting, there are those who can't wait. What does it mean to say, I can't wait? At its most benign, this phrase has been used as an expression of anticipation. I can't wait for my birthday, for you to come over, for the sequel to Spider-Man, for the new season of Game of Thrones or The Bachelor. I can't wait to see you for spring. I can't wait has developed into a sense of ominous urgency and desperation, a kind of mandate with deadly consequences. I can't wait has become I must go to a bar, to see my friends, to eat at a restaurant, to hug my grandkids, to travel, not to wear a mask, to do as I please. We are in an epic state of urgency created by our inability to wait. For many of us, our very survival depends upon the fact that we are still waiting. The extent of the COVID crisis is being driven by those who are simply done waiting. The tragedy here is the disproportionate damage being done to those who have already been waiting for years, for decades, for generations, to people of color, to people already waiting for adequately supported social programs to bridge the gap to self-sufficiency, for adequate access to education and healthcare, to our elder population who are waiting to die peacefully in a safe place surrounded by loved ones. Many of those who could not wait are now waiting to recover or die. Some are saying publicly that it was not worth not waiting. Emotional intelligence and resilience can come at a terrible cost. We are all tired of waiting. Many here are engaged in safe activities to lessen the impact, to shorten the wait, to remain well, to engage in the aftermath, and to help shape a post-COVID world. The circumstances beyond our control that are extending our wait are, well, beyond our control. Waiting when it is impossible to know what will shift the tide toward an unknown outcome is especially vexing. My daughter is living in the retreat space over our garage right now. She is a healthcare worker who is staying away from her husband and 2 young boys to protect them from possible exposure. The nursing home where she works is in the midst of a COVID outbreak. All but 2 of the more than 80 long-term care and short-term rehab residents, and more than 62 staff infected, more than 25 residents' deaths. It's temporary, it's resolving. She could be home by Christmas. Her family is waiting to be together again. When she dropped off a bag of groceries after 3 days of being apart, her 7-year-old stood on the inside of a window crying and saying he missed her. He wanted to snuggle her right now. Listen, she told him, listen to me. Feel everything you are feeling. Feel it and remember how it feels. When I come home, we are going to have so many snuggles, and it's going to be great to be together. And a month after I'm home, we may be climbing the walls and sick of being together at times. And when we are, we will need to remember this longing. So our job right now is just to feel it. Here is what we can do. We can use this time to cultivate in ourselves and others a new level of resilience. This can come through taking time for the discomfort of our feelings, sitting with that. This is one of the ways we can use our still waiting to prepare for the time when we are ready to re-engage. Finding ways to still wait is so important. Might we all bring the quality of stillness into this time? Still waiting. The capacity to simply accept that there are real circumstances beyond our control. Perhaps even recognition that sometimes we are part of the circumstances beyond someone else's control. Finding the sweet spot embodied in the serenity prayer to be granted the serenity to accept the things we cannot change. Knowing this kind of waiting to be surrender that slows and sometimes opens the heart. Providing a generosity of spirit that allows the self to decenter from the self-importance and oppressive urgency. To be the in-breath that relieves the exhaustion of being constantly putting out. To know waiting as a kind of blessing, a relief, an opportunity for creative quiet and deep gratitude. Thank you, thank you. A spiritual practice that does not require making or finding time. Still waiting is time forced upon us and received as grace. Thank you. Thank you.
As the 60076 Proximity Partners group extinguishes the chalice, please join in saying these words. Though the flame is extinguished, we carry with us the warmth of community, the light of truth, and the fire of commitment until we are together again.
Let there be moments when we turn away. in solitude we find the soundless wisdom of the deeper mind. With clear harmonious purpose let us then bring richer meaning to the world again.
Of your daring days begin to swirl. May you find your breath. May you remember that still point inside that is always waiting to welcome you back home. And from that place of sacred peace, may you be an anchor of calm for those who need it as much as you. Go in peace, go in love. We are indebted to Scott Tyler for these words of benediction. Please remain as you wish for the postlude, Deep Peace by Sarah Thompson.
Deep peace of the rolling waves to you, deep peace of the silent stars, deep peace of the blowing air to you, deep peace of the quiet earth. Let peace, let peace, let peace fill your soul. May peace, may peace, may peace keep you whole. Deep peace of the rolling waves to you, deep peace of the silent stars, deep peace of the blowing air to you, deep peace of the quiet earth. Let peace, let peace, let peace fill your soul. May peace, may peace, may peace keep you whole. Deep peace of the rolling waves to you, deep peace of the silent stars, deep peace of the blowing air to you, deep peace of the quiet earth. Let peace, let peace, let